Yo folks, we're going to be doing Cambridge IELTS 8, Test 2 Reading Passage 3. Topic is about meaning and power of smell. Okay, let's just look through the types of questions. The first one is list of the headings, the types, and the second type is the MCQ. And the last one is about summary completion, sentence completion here. All right, let's begin with doing headings. Okay. All right. A survey. Let's try to figure out. A survey conducted by Anthony Sinnott at Montreal's Concordia University, so survey conducted by someone, asked participants to comment how important smell was to them in their lives. It became apparent that smell can evoke strong emotional response. A scent associated with a good experience can bring a rush of joy, while a foul odor or one associated with a bad memory may make us grimace with disgust. Respondents to survey noted that many of their olfactory likes and dislikes were based on emotional associations. Such associations can be powerful enough so that odors that we would generally label unpleasant become agreeable, and those that we would generally consider fragrant become disagreeable for particular individuals. The perception of smell, therefore, consists not only for the sensation of odor themselves, but of the experiences and emotions associated with them. Which means, see, this is the final point of the passage, paragraph. The perception of smell consists not only of the sensation of the odors themselves, but also it's about experience and it's about emotions associated with them, right? And let's try to match headings that we have been given here. The first one is about difficulties of talking about smells. So, is it about difficulties, right? Talking about smells, the role of smell in personal relationships, right? Future studies into smell, the relationship between brain and nose, the interpretation of smells as a factor in defining groups, why our sense of smell is not appreciated. Smell is our superior sense, the relationship between smell and feelings. This is the point, right? And as far as I know, it's about emotions and experience associated with them. You know, this is a kind of key point that's talking about its relationships between smell and feeling, right? Do we have the word feeling here? Of course. And it's about associated with a bad memory, which may make us grimace with disgust. That's the keyword. And a scent associated with a good experience can bring a rush of joy. It's also a key point, and the last sentence of the paragraph just it solved all the questions. That it's going to be number 8, right? So let's choose number 8 here. And let's just move on to the next one. So 27 here, right? It's about 27. So 27 here as well. Okay, 27 here, of course. And let's just make them bold in order to be distinguished. Okay, and of course, paragraph B. Odors are also essential cues in social bonding. Yes, of course. And it's going to be kind of a personal relationship, or do we have relationship between brain and nose? I think it's about personal because social bonding refers to the word personal relationship. But let's see, okay? One respondent to the survey believed that there is no true emotional bonding without touching and smelling a loved one. In fact, infants recognize odors of their mothers soon after the birth, and adults can often identify their children or spouses by scent, which is very kind of curious, right? And one well-known test, modern women and men were able to distinguish by smell alone clothing worn by their marriage partners from similar clothing worn by other people. Okay, most of this. So I think it's not about future, of course, right? Difficulties, no difficulty, or it would be number two. So is it about brain and nose? Is it about interpretation, defining groups, or not appreciated? Smell and feeling, we have already chosen. Superior sense. So let's see, okay? Most of the subjects would probably never have been given much thought to odor as a cue for identifying family members before being involved in the test, but as the experiment revealed, even when not consciously considered, smells register. Uh, so, as far as I know, it's going to be number two, right? 28 here. Okay, so we could write 28 here as well. And let's choose number two because it's talking about 100% personal relationships, right? Mothers and babies or spouses between men and women, right? And the next one, in spite of its importance to our emotional and so let's just highlight this word, in spite of. This is kind of very important connectives here. In spite of here somehow contradicting the idea that the next part of the clause, I mean this part of sentence kind of means something, and this part of a clause doesn't mean anything because it is contradicting here, right? And in spite of its importance to our emotional and sensory lives, and this part of the clause in the sentence is important. So it says that, right? Smell is probably the most undervalued sense in many cultures. So undervalue kind of looks like, maybe sounds like a not appreciated. So but we will see, okay? Because no rush in the test. The first reason is that it's about passage 3, which is going to be kind of complex compared to the passage 1 and 2 ones, right? And so let's see. The reason often given for the low regard in which smell is held in that, in comparison with its importance among animals, the human sense of smell is feeble and undeveloped. Curious words, right? My bad. So While it's true that olfactory powers of humans are nothing like as fine as those possessed by certain animals, they are still remarkably acute. Our noses are able to recognize thousands of smells and perceive odors, which are present only in extremely small quantity. Extremely small quantity, right? Is it talking about future? No future? Difficulties of talking? Um, so let's, okay, first of all, let's try to kind of cross out the, so the headings, I have just crossed them out in order to be kind of distinguished, right? Is it about superior sense? Is it about superior? No, no clue, right? It could be kind of number 6 here because we have keyword not appreciated. Why? Reason. Yes, of course, we have the word reason here. That's the keyword, reason. The reason why. Not appreciated. Do we have? Yes. Undervalued. Undervalued. That's why it's going to be 29 here. It's going to be here as well. Number 6. And let's continue doing here. So smell, however, is a highly elusive phenomenon. However, conducting a meaning here, right? Which is contradicting. Odors, unlike colors, for instance, cannot be named in many languages because the specific vocabulary simply doesn't exist. It smells like something we have to say when describing an odor. Struggling to express our olfactory experience, nor can odors be recorded. There is no effective way to either capture or store them over time. In the realm of olfaction, we must make do with descriptions and recollections. This has implications for olfactory research. So research, right? Elusive phenomenon. Elusive, that's a kind of very interesting word, right? So let's just write elusive. What does it mean? Do we have its definition? Of course. Elusive is something that difficult to describe something. Describe. Elusive means difficult to describe. So smell is highly elusive, which means difficult to describe a notion, right? So difficulties of talking about smells, of course. This is the keyword. Difficulties, which means elusive. Elusive, right? So if I'm not mistaken, it's going to be pronounced like elusive or elusive. And this is 100% number 1 because we have got a straight synonym here, right? Difficult to describe because cannot be named, right? Cannot be named, doesn't exist, nor can others be recorded. So every single words are just shivering that it's going to be number 1. And 30, let's write down here. And the next one is, so most of the research on, so, perfect. And just I forgot to cross them out. So most of the research on smell undertaken to date has been of a physical scientific nature, maybe. So significant advances have been made in the understanding of the biological and chemical nature of olfaction, but many fundamental questions have yet to be answered, right? Researchers have still to decide whether smell is one sense or two, one responding to odors proper, the other registering odorless chemicals in the air. Other unanswered questions are whether the nose is the only part of the body affected to odors, and how smell can be measured objectively given the non-physical components. Questions like these. So you see, we have a lot of questions yet to be answered, right? And questions like this mean that, and this part of the sentence just can tell us a lot about this paragraph, right? Interest in the psychology of smell is inevitably set to play an increasingly important role for researchers. And this just had to put a kind of full stop for the paragraph in order to just make decisions. And this sentence makes sense to figure out the headings here, okay? So is it about a relationship between brain and nose? Do we have brain? No. Do we have a superior sense, which means smelling is very superior sense? Do we have? No, no, no. Is it about a interpretation of smells as a factor in defining groups? Are they just dividing into groups or defining groups? Do we have such information here? I don't think so. And of course, it's talking about studies, future studies. So do we have the word future? Of course. It's not written like future here, just we gotta figure out because we have yet to be answered, right? The questions yet to be answered, which means there's no exact questions yet. And maybe in the future, it's going to be solved, but we don't have it yet, which means in the future, right? So, okay, let's just put it and let's just make them bold by writing 31 here. Is it 31? Of course. And let's just write a number here. So the next one, the last one, okay. Let's just do it, okay. However, smell is not simply a biological and psychological phenomenon. It's not biology, it's not psychology. Smell is culture. So, hence, it's a social and historical phenomenon. Okay, let's just. Okay, so is it about brain and nose, defining groups, interpretation, or superior sense? So we'll see, okay? And smell is cultural, hence, it's a social and historical phenomenon. Odors are invested with cultural values. Smell that are considered to be offensive, okay, in some cultures may be perfectly acceptable in others, okay. Therefore, our sense of smell is a means of and model for interacting with the world, okay. Different smells can provide us with intimate and emotionally charged experience, and the value that we attach to this experience is interiorized by the members of society in a deeply personal way, okay. Importantly, this is a kind of key word here that is going to tell us what is important in this paragraph, right? Our commonly held feeling about smell can help distinguish us from other cultures. So, defining groups, right? Defining distinguishing kind. Okay, the study of the cultural history of smell is therefore, in a very real sense, an investigation, interpretation, right, into the essence of human culture. You see, when you are just doing a matching headings, you gotta figure out the keywords inside of the paragraph that can tell a kind of topic sentence. And this sentence, right, or sentences are playing an important role in terms of defining the paragraph. Just they are here telling me that it's about interpretation of smells, and it's defining groups, right? And that's why it's so. Is it? Yeah, it's 5. Okay, and let's just write down here 32. Okay, and in terms of list of headings we've done here, and it was quite a not tedious, right? So let's move on to the next one. Let's continue doing MCQ questions here. So according to the introduction, we become aware of the importance of smell when we have the connective word when. So the sense of smell or olfaction is powerful. Odors affect us on a physical and psychological and social level. For the most part, however, we breathe in the aromas which surround us without being consciously aware of the importance to us. So I have just located the question here, and it's only when. When. We have the keyword here, when, and here, when as well, right? And become aware of the importance of smell without being consciously aware of their importance to us. You see, I've just located the question here, and let's try to figure out discovery of a new smell. Is it talking about new smell? It's only when the faculty of smell is impaired for some reason that we begin to realize the essential role the sense of smell plays in our sense of well-being. It looks like there is no such information like new smell, discovery, experience a powerful smell. Do we have the word powerful? I don't think so. And damaged, surrounded, ability. So this word faculty here is going to be a synonym to the word ability, which means impaired. Yes, of course, it's damaged. And so undoubtedly it's going to be C1, right? So it could be somehow surrounded by odors here, because for the most part we breathe in the aroma which surround us. We may have such information here. However, the word when, you see, we need the word when here. That's why I decided to choose this part of the clue, okay? I mean clause. This clause can tell us the exact location of the question, I mean answer, and that's why it's going to be 33. And experiment. Do we have experiment? And what's telling us in paragraph B? So paragraph B. Odors are also essential cues in social bonding. One responded to the survey believed that there is no true emotional bonding without touching and smelling a loved one. In fact, infants recognize the odors of their mothers soon after the birth. And adults can often identify their children or spouses by scent. In one well-known test, yes, finally, test, which means experiment, right? Women and men were able to distinguish by smell alone clothing worn by their married parents from similar clothing worn by other people. Most of the subject. So subject here, subject means male and female, right? The word subject here are referring to the word people. Would probably never have given much thought, to odor as a cue for identifying family members before being involved in the test, as the experiment was revealed. So they didn't know about it in the beginning, right? Even when not consciously considerate, smells register. So shows how we make use of smell without realizing. Yes, it's talking about without realizing, because when not consciously considerate, which means without realizing. And that's why 32, that's why it's A. What is a writer doing in paragraph C? Writer doing. Paragraph C. So what is he doing here? Okay. In spite of its importance to our emotional and sensory lives, smell is probably the most undervalued sense in many cultures. The reason often given low for the lowly regard in which smell is held is that, right? In comparison with its importance among animals, the human sense of smell is feeble and underdeveloped. So, the reason often given for the low regard which smell is held is that, in comparison with its importance among animals, human sense of smell is feeble. Feeble, which means weak, right? Undeveloped. It's also weak, not developed. While it is true olfactory powers of humans are nothing like as fine as those possessed by certain animals, they are still remarkably acute. Okay. Is it talking about supporting? And if we pay attention here, the paragraph just begins with the connective word in spite of. And as I mentioned before, during I was I was doing matching headings, in spite of means, or this connective word is used when you want to contradict the idea, and it's not supporting word, it's contradicting, right? Maybe kind of rejecting, could be. And is it proposal, suggestion? Do we have the word suggestion here? Do we have any advice? I don't think so. That's why it's not about supporting, it's not about proposal. It could be rejecting, it could be, because it's talking about in spite of this, while it's true that, so while it's also a solid synonym for the word in spite of, right? Limitations. It could be limitation because we have a keyword like extremely small quantity, but in terms of writing, writer, what he is doing here, he's trying to say that it is true, while it is true, but it's not true. They are still remarkably acute. And that's why it's rejecting a common belief. That's why, while it is true, which means while it is common belief, right? However, I'm not going to be kind of passionate about it. So the writer is going to reject the idea, the common belief, and he's presenting another idea, which means they are still remarkably acute. That's why it's going to be 35. And so C. And what does the writer suggest about the study of smell in the atmosphere? Paragraph E. So let's just scroll down to E. Most of the research on smell undertaken to date has been of physical significant nature. Significant advances have been made in the understanding of the biological and chemical nature of olfaction, right? But many fundamental questions yet to be answered. Yes. Measurements are becoming more accurate. More accurate? I think it's still inaccurate. It's not accurate here. According to the text, it's not accurate, right? Purely physical reaction, purely belief, inoffensive, and yet to be defined. This is the keyword. This is the answer. Yet to be defined, because fundamental questions have yet to be answered. And that's why it's going to be D36 here as well. And completing sentence here. Tests have shown that odors can help people recognize the something belonging to their husbands and wives. Okay, do we have? Of course, we have the word spouse here. So spouse, where is the word spouse? Yes, here. Recognize can help people recognize the what maybe clothing, right? So let's see. Adults can identify their children or spouses by scent. In one well-known test, women and men were able to distinguish by smell alone clothing worn by their marriage partners from similar clothing worn by other people. So it's about clothing here. And let's just highlight I'm sorry. And okay, 37 here. Certain linguistic groups may have difficulty describing smell because they lack the appropriate something. So it's adjective and we need noun. So linguistic. Do we have the word linguistic here? Language, of course. Language. Appropriate what? Vocabulary could be. So let's see. Smell, however, is a highly elusive phenomenon. Odors, unlike colors, for instance, cannot be named in many languages because the specific vocabulary simply doesn't exist. Describing smell because they lack. So we have to say when describing an odor, struggling to express doesn't simply exist appropriate vocabulary. It could be vocabulary, but let me check one more time, okay? Experience, nor can odors be recorded. There is no effective way to either capture or store them over time. In the realm of olfaction, we must make do with descriptions, recollections. This has implications for olfactory research. So you see, I've just read the whole paragraph here, and in terms of one technique, in terms of the grammar technique, I need to put every single noun if I am in a dilemma, which means if I have a lot of doubts what I should put here, which word. So here I need noun first of all, and this noun should be connected with the word appropriate. when you want to translate, right? And from grammatical point of view, if I write here vocabulary, it makes sense because it could be kind of translated with the word appropriate here. They lack the appropriate vocabulary. It could be translated and it totally makes sense in terms of specific vocabulary simply doesn't exist, because doesn't exist could be a synonym to the word lack. Or if I have a very bad vocabulary and if I had a not solid grammar, so what would I do? So I should do my best in terms of putting every single nouns just in the text here. So let's just try to figure out nouns here. It's for amateurs or intermediate students who are always in a dilemma which word could be the most optimal choice for the answer. So let's try to do our best. And first of all, the word language could be a location and the starting point because we have the linguist here, okay? And let's just try to pick every single noun here, okay? Vocabulary and describing an odor, express experience, right? Olfaction, RAM, description, recollection, implication, research. You see, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, or so just roughly we have 10 nouns, and whenever you have not solid grammar, just try to put every single word, okay? They lack appropriate experience, they lack appropriate description, research, implication, recollection, and after you have just put the keyword, the answer, vocabulary, try to connect the whole sentence, in terms of meaning. They lack appropriate vocabulary, they lack appropriate experience. So does it have such word lack here? Struggling to experience. Okay, in terms of affection, you see, it's totally impossible to find out or identify the word lack or appropriate just next to the words experience, descriptions, research, and others. And this is the only answer, this is the only noun that could be the real answer because it makes sense. There is a word specific, could be a synonym to the word appropriate, simply doesn't exist, could be a synonym to the word lack, and that's why this vocabulary looked, or the correct answer in terms of its part of the speech, which means noun, of course. And this is one of the most optimal technique in order to identify the right answer when you are doing a sentence completion question, and it works well if you just know how to use it, okay? And the next one, the sense of smell mainly involves response to the sense of smell. The sense of smell may involve response to something which do not smell, in addition to obvious odors. So most of the research on smell undertaking to date has been of a physical scientific nature. Sense of smell may involve response to something, which do not smell. Which do not smell, that's the keyword. And which do not smell is considered to be a relative clause. According to a grammatical point of view, relative clause just commonly, generally identifies the word before it, right? And we need to write it down, such word, and its definition is which do not smell, right? And okay, it smells like, we have to say when describing odor, struggling to express our olfactory experience, nor can odors be recorded. There is no effective way to either capture or store them over time. In realm of olfaction, we must make do with descriptions and recollections. It has implications for olfactory research. Most of the research on smell undertaken to date has been of a physical scientific nature. Significant advances have been made in the understanding of the biological and chemical nature of olfaction, but many fundamental questions have yet to be answered. Researchers have still to decide whether smell is one sense or one responding to odors proper, and the other registering odorless chemicals in the air. You see, odorless, this is the keyword, chemicals. I think the word chemicals should be the answer. And it looks like the word odor could be trapped here. And while you are doing a reading test in IELTS, right, or any test regarding Cambridge tests, there are several traps that you need to fall down, or those traps makes you to do, to to be trapped here. And most amateur IELTS readers, candidates, just fall into these traps. Responding to odors, response to, however, it's not talking about it, right? As I told you, I have to figure out such word here, right? Any noun, and this noun should be, or have to be defined that which do not smell. Which do not smell. What word can it be? It could be odorless. Odorless means do not smell, and chemicals are the right answer. And that's why I need to write here chemicals, right? So let's write it down 39 here. So 39, did we write 38 here? I forgot, and 39. And that's why, my dear IELTS candidates, when you are doing any types of tests, just try to investigate every single questions with every single synonyms or keywords. Sometimes this kind of words could be a trap, and these words make you to make errors, right? To make mistakes. So, and the last one, odors regarded as unpleasant in certain. If you see, we have the preposition. It's preposition, right? Preposition. And in certain something, situation, right? Or some words are not regarded as unpleasant in others. Okay. Other unanswered questions are whether the nose is the only part of the body affected by odors, how smells can be measured, or best questions like this. So I think here, because we have the word culture here, that's why. Culture could be the right answer, culture. So smell is not simply a biological and psychological phenomenon. Smell is cultural, hence it's a social and historical phenomenon. Odors are invested with cultural values. Smells like that are considered to be offensive in some cultures. This is the key word. I mean, this is the right word to be answered here. Certain. Certain means some cultures, right? So why cultures? Because we have in here unpleasant. Do we have unpleasant? Offensive, of course. This word unpleasant, offensive, not regarded. So perfectly acceptable. Perfectly acceptable could be a perfectly synonym to the word unpleasant, not regarded as unpleasant, which means unacceptable. And it's talking about in cultures. And that's why the right answer have to be cultures here. And don't forget to put the word in plurals because it has to be written as it is in the passage. And this is all for today. Thank you for your attention. Take care.